Discover the Bantu people of sub-Saharan Africa. Hello Displorers, welcome to another interesting video presented to you by Displorer, and thanks for watching. In this video, we shall look at the history of one of the most prominent tribes on the African continent with a lens to understand more about its unique people, the Bantu people. Bantu peoples are the speakers of Bantu languages, comprising several hundred indigenous ethnic groups in sub-Saharan Africa, spread over a vast area from Central Africa across the African Great Lakes to Southern Africa. The total number of languages range in hundreds, depending on the definition of language or dialect, estimated at between 440 and 680 distinct languages. The total number of speakers is in the hundreds of millions, ranging at roughly 350 million in the mid-2010s, which was roughly 30% of the African population, or roughly 5% of the total world population. About 60 million speakers, divided into some 200 ethnic or tribal groups, are found in the Democratic Republic of Congo alone, as per 2015 records. The larger of the individual Bantu groups have populations of several million, like the Shona of Zimbabwe, the Zulu of South Africa, the Luba of the Democratic Republic of Congo, the Sukuma of Tanzania, or the Kikuyu of Kenya. These people are not only large in Africa, but embodies a great cultural, linguistic, and musical diversity, which portrays the beauty and uniqueness of this tribe. And in this video, we will explore through it. But first, if you're new here, welcome. Be sure to subscribe and turn notifications so you don't miss any of our videos. Origin of the Bantu name. The word Bantu for the language families and its speakers is an artificial term based on the reconstructed Proto-Bantu term for people or humans. It was first introduced by Wilhelm Blake in 1857 or 58 and popularized in his comparative grammar of 1862. The name was coined to represent the word for people in loosely reconstructed Proto-Bantu, but there is no native term for the peoples who speak Bantu languages because they are not an ethnic group. People speaking Bantu languages refer to their languages by ethnic endonyms, which did not have an indigenous concept prior to European contact for the larger ethno-linguistic phylum, named by 19th century European linguist. Blake's coinage was inspired by the anthropological observation of groups self-identifying as people or the true people. Before the Bantu, the southern half of Africa is believed to have been populated by Khoisan-speaking people, today occupying the arid regions around the Kalahari and a few isolated pockets in Tanzania. Pygmies inhabited Central Africa, whereas Kushites and other people speaking Afro-Asiatic languages inhabited northeastern and northern Africa. Northwestern Africa, the Sahara, and the Sudan were inhabited by people speaking Mande and Atlantic languages such as the Fulani and Wolof, and other people speaking Nilo-Saharan languages. There are two basic theories of Bantu origins, with the first advanced by George Greenberg in 1963. He had analyzed and compared several hundred African languages and found that a group of languages spoken in southeastern Nigeria were the most closely related to languages from the Bantu group. He theorized that Proto-Bantu, or the hypothetical ancestor of the Bantu languages, was originally one of these languages that spread south and east over hundreds of years. This was quickly challenged by Malcolm Guthrie, who analyzed each Bantu language and found that the most stereotypical were those spoken in Zambia and in the Southern Democratic Republic of Congo. This provided the alternate theory that Bantu speakers had spread from these locations in all directions. Some historians still accept a synthesis of the above-named theories, although the enthusiasm with which the South African apartheid government exploited these ideas left them under something of a cloud. The Bantu first originated around the Benue Cross Rivers area in southern Nigeria and spread over Africa to the Zambia area. Sometime in the second millennium BC, perhaps triggered by the drying up of the Sahara and pressure from the migration of people from the Sahara into the region, they were forced to expand into the rainforest of Central Africa, making the phase 1 migratory process. About 1,000 years later, they began a more rapid second phase of expansion beyond forests into southern and eastern Africa. Then, sometime in the first millennium, new cultural techniques and plants were developed in Zambia, probably imported from Southeast Asia through Austronesian-speaking Madagascar. With these techniques, another Bantu expansion occurred centered on this new location, hence Phase 3. By about 81,000, it had reached modern-day Zimbabwe and South Africa. In Zimbabwe, a major Southern Hemisphere empire was established, with its capital at Great Zimbabwe. It controlled trading routes from South Africa to north of the Zambezi, trading gold, copper, precious stones, animal hides, ivory and metal goods with the Arab traders of the Swahili coast. By the 14th or 15th centuries, the empire had surpassed its resources and had collapsed, with the city of Great Zimbabwe being abandoned. Migration. Bantu languages are theorized to derive from the Proto-Bantu reconstructed language, estimated to have been spoken about 4,000 to 3,000 years ago in West Central Africa, around the area of modern-day Cameroon. They were supposedly spread across Central, Eastern and Southern Africa in the so-called Bantu expansion, a comparatively rapid dissemination taking roughly 2 millennia and dozens of human generations during the first millennium BCE and the first millennium CE. This concept has often been framed as a mass migration, but Jan van Sina and others have argued that it was actually a cultural spread and not the movement of any specific populations that could be defined as an enormous group simply on the basis of common language traits. The geographical shape and course of the Bantu expansion remains debated. Two main scenarios are proposed: an early expansion to Central Africa and a single origin of the dispersal radiating from there, or an early separation into an eastward and a southward wave of dispersal, with one wave moving across the Congo Basin towards East Africa and another moving south along the African coast and the Congo River system towards Angola. Genetic analysis shows a significant clustered variation of genetic traits among Bantu language speakers by region, suggesting admixture from prior local populations. According to the early split scenario as described in the 1990s, the southward dispersal had reached the Central African rainforest by about 1500 BCE, and the southern savannas by 500 BCE, while the eastward dispersal reached the Great Lakes by 1000 BCE, expanding further from there as the rich environment supported dense populations. Possible movements by small groups to the southeast from the Great Lakes region could have been more rapid, with initial settlements widely dispersed near the coast and near rivers, due to comparatively harsh farming conditions in areas farther from water. Recent archaeological and linguistic evidence about population movements suggests that pioneering groups would have reached parts of modern KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa sometime prior to 3rd century AD along the coast, and the modern Northern Cape by 500 AD. Under the Bantu expansion migration hypothesis, various Bantu-speaking peoples would have assimilated or displaced many earlier inhabitants, with only a few modern peoples, such as Pygmy groups in Central Africa, the Hadza people in northern Tanzania, and various Khoisan populations across southern Africa, retaining autonomous existence into the era of European contact. Archaeological evidence attests to their presence in areas subsequently occupied by Bantu speakers. Bantu-speaking migrants would have also interacted with some Afro-Asiatic outlier groups in the southeast, as well as Nilotic and Central Sudanic-speaking groups. Cattle terminology in use amongst the relatively few modern Bantu pastoralist groups suggests that the acquisition of cattle may have been from Cushitic-speaking neighbors. Linguistic evidence also indicates that the customs of milking cattle were also directly modeled from Cushitic cultures in the area. Cattle terminology in Southern African Bantu languages differs from that found among more northerly Bantu-speaking peoples. One recent suggestion is that Cushitic speakers had moved south earlier and interacted with the most northerly of Khoisan speakers who acquired cattle from them, and that the earliest arriving Bantu speakers in turn got their initial cattle from Cushitic-influenced Kwe-speaking people. Under this hypothesis, larger later Bantu-speaking immigration subsequently displaced or assimilated that southernmost extension of the range of Cushitic speakers. Later history. Between the 9th and 15th centuries, Bantu-speaking states began to emerge in the Great Lakes region and in the savanna south of Central African rainforest. Not far from the Mutirikiwi River, the Monomatapa kings built the Great Zimbabwe complex, a civilization ancestral to the Kalanga people. Comparable sites in southern Africa include Bumbusi in Zimbabwe and Manyikeni in Mozambique. From the 12th century onward, the processes of state formation amongst Bantu people increased in frequency. This was probably due to denser population, which led to more specialized divisions of labor, including military power, while making immigration more difficult, to technological development in economic activity, and to new techniques in the political spiritual ritualization of royalty as a source of national strength and health. Some examples of such Bantu states were in the Central Africa, the Kingdom of Congo, the Kuba Kingdom, the Lunda Kingdom, the Luba Empire, Turo, Bunyoro, Buganda, Busoga, Rwanda, Burundi, Ankoli, and in Southern Africa, the Mutapa Empire, the Zulu Kingdom, the Ndebele Kingdom, Mupungubwe, and the Kingdom of Mbutwa, Maravi, Danamombe, Kami, Nalatali, Kingdom of Zimbabwe, and the Rosary Empire. On the coastal section of East Africa, a mixed Bantu community developed through contacts with Muslim, Arab, and Persian traders, Zanzibar being an important part in the Indian Ocean slave trade. The Swahili culture that emerged from these exchanges evinces many Arab and Islamic influences not seen in traditional Bantu culture, as do the many Afro-Arab members of the Bantu Swahili family. With its original speech community centered on the coastal parts of Zanzibar, Kenya, and Tanzania, a seaboard referred to as the Swahili Coast, the Bantu Swahili language contains many Arabic loanwords as a result of these interactions. The Bantu migrations, and centuries later, the Indian Ocean slave trade brought Bantu influence to Madagascar. The Malagasy people showing Bantu admixture and the Malagasy language, Bantu loans. Toward the 18th and 19th centuries, the flow of Zanj or Bantu slaves from Southeast Africa increased, with the rise of the Omani Sultanate of Zanzibar, based in Zanzibar, Tanzania. With the arrival of European colonialists, the Zanzibar Sultanate came into direct trade conflict and competition with Portuguese and other Europeans along the Swahili coast, leading eventually to the fall of the Sultanate and the end of slave trading on the Swahili coast in the mid-20th century. There you have it, explorers. That was a look at the Bantu people of Africa. Thanks for watching this video, and if you did enjoy the video, do want to give it a thumbs up. Do not forget to subscribe and share with your friends.